Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream. If you can hear me, maybe give me a thumbs up or something in the comments here. We are live, hopefully, on both Facebook and YouTube. We have a tradition here at Hike Like a Woman that we've just started. And that tradition is that after we finish a group trip, I like to hop on and do a live stream and share stories and pictures and share what our most recent trip was all about. I just think that's a good way to kind of connect what you see here on our social media platforms with what really goes on a trip. So if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up in the comments below. Today, I'm talking about our most recent trip to Alaska. I just returned from Alaska on Tuesday night, and I'm headed to Yellowstone for another group trip this weekend. So a lot going on, but today I just want to share with you our experience in Alaska. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, and I'm just going to run through these slides right now. My goal is to be brief tonight because I don't know if you're a parent out there, but there's all this back to school stuff going on. And I actually have another meeting here in a little bit. So I will be brief tonight, but I'm going to give you the high points of our trip to Alaska. So let's dive right in. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Rebecca. I'm the founder of Hike Like a Woman. My mission at Hike Like a Woman is to help women explore the outdoors with confidence. And we do that through outdoor adventures. And usually when people join up, when they sign up to go on a trip with me, that trip starts long before we meet in person at an airport. So this trip to Alaska started long before we met up at the Anchorage airport. It always starts with an introduction to our Slack group where we have a channel where we chat back and forth with each group that's going on the trip with us. We hop on live calls every couple of months. And the whole goal is so when you book a trip with Hike Like a Woman, by the time you get to the trip, we want you to feel like you already have a friend and like you know somebody, because it's really scary to book a trip and go on an epic adventure with people you don't even know. So our goal is to make it so that when you show up for a trip, you already have a friend. We don't, we want strangers to become friends and friends just to become lifelong friends. And that's what happens on our trip. So I just preface that by saying that before our trips, we always feel like we already know each other before we even link up at an airport or a hotel somewhere. So this was a little snippet into our Alaska chat group there. You can see these pictures being shared with the group right now. Everyone's sharing photos and it's really fun. So we met up for our trip to Alaska at the airport. I always try to wear something that says Hike Like a Woman when I go to the airport so you know where to find me. And we met up at the airport I don't even remember what day we met up, whatever. We were at the airport. We loaded the van and we met our guide. So this was Charlie. He was our guide. It's the first time that we've had just a male guide for a Hike Like a Woman trip. We didn't have any female guides this trip, which was kind of a bummer, but Charlie hiked like a woman too. And he was really awesome and he fit right in with the group. And he went home with more Hike Like a Woman swag than anyone. So Charlie was an excellent guide. You can see though, it was a little bit like Jenga trying to fit all of our luggage into this tiny trailer that he had. But eventually we all loaded up and then we had a surprise visit. So a few months ago, this awesome company named Swoop out of Anchorage, it's a woman-owned business. She's a nurse and she just couldn't find a comfortable bra, so she created her own bra. So she reached out and she was like, hey, Rebecca, could we partner for something? And I told her, I'm bringing a group to Alaska and I like to throw in some surprises on our trip. So could we stop at your warehouse and go shopping? So we did. So we went bra shopping before we headed to our campground. And you can see our group there outside of her warehouse. She makes these amazing bras, these really fun, colorful rain pants, and a lot of other fun things, these really warm tunics. So if you're looking to support a small business, a woman-owned small business in the outdoor industry, go check out Swoop, SWOOP. We loved their stuff, and it was really fun to just kick off the trip with some bra shopping. Nothing brings a group of strangers together like bra shopping. So that's what we did. After we went bra shopping, we decided that it was time to hit the road. So we drove to our campground, which was the Crow Creek Campground in Girdwood, Alaska. And there were lots of beautiful scenic stops along the way. Charlie was good at letting us stop and take pictures. We thought this was beautiful, but we saw a lot of beauty the whole time we were in Alaska. So we stopped for some pictures. You can see the gang all there, the group all there. Getting to know each other in the van. We got to our campground. You can see it was in this beautiful pine forest. It was very private. There were a few other campers there, but we really had the space pretty much to ourselves. You can see setting up tents. Rachel's there dancing on the table. She danced the whole trip. She just had so much fun. And then for dinner, because it's Alaska, of course, Charlie made us salmon and then there was another fish that his friend had just caught. So we cooked salmon over the campfire, which was delicious. I will note that on our trips, this trip especially, I think we had 5 vegans and 1 vegetarian, and we always try to make sure that everybody's food preferences and diets are accommodated on all of our trips. And so we had plenty of really good food for the vegans and the non-fish eaters out there too. But that's what dinner before it went over the fire the first night. The next morning we woke up and we loaded up their van. And this is really, really important to know. Do you see that big box right there? That was our box of snacks. Here at Hike Like a Woman, we hike at the pace of photographs and snacks. And so Lucky Jan and I got to sit next to the snack box, which was awesome. But we loaded up our van because we had a really interesting van ride today. This day we were headed from Girdwood, our campground, to Whittier, Alaska. And the only way to get to Whittier is to, if you see this picture on the left-hand side, is to drive through a tunnel. This tunnel is amazing. It's the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. It takes between 7 to 10 minutes to drive through the tunnel. It's for both cars and trains. I think besides going on a boat, this tunnel is really the only way to get to Whittier. And what's interesting is it's only one tunnel. So you have to show up at the tunnel, wait for your time spot, and then go through the tunnel together. And then they stop, and then it goes the other direction. So it's not 2-way traffic on this tunnel. It's just 1-way traffic through the tunnel. So that was pretty fun. Eventually, we got to the town of Whittier, which is this tiny town. And I think that those people who live in Whittier actually live in like one giant apartment or condo building. Very neat. If you've taken a cruise to Alaska, you probably stopped in Whittier. It's a really neat kind of port town. But before we got on the water, we decided we were going to do a hike. So we went up to Portage Pass. And this is a really fun hike. You can see the group all there gathered, ready to go. We have some mosquito nets on our heads. The mosquitoes weren't too bad, but they were a little bit bad on Portage Pass. So we went up this beautiful trail, and you can see the higher we climbed, the prettier the route became. And we were just surrounded by mountains in all directions. It was a gorgeous hike, and Shannon's on Facebook and she said, I love snacks. But here's what happened. We started to get hungry and we had to get on our glacier cruise. So we turned around. It was kind of an out and back hike, but we turned around and well, there's the gang all hiking, getting ready to turn around here. Eventually we turned around because we had a cruise to catch. So we hopped on this glacier cruise in Whittier, and we had lunch on the cruise. They had free water, coffee, and hot tea. And I think I drank like 10 cups of tea. But we hopped on this cruise, and the whole goal of the cruise was to look at glaciers and to see wildlife. And we saw a little bit of wildlife, but we had fun. So you can see us like hanging out on the boat. It was a little bit rainy. The weather wasn't too awesome, but we still had a lot of fun. That was my flying poncho there. What do you think? Cool picture, huh? So anyway, you can see here on the left-hand side, if you look kind of close to the end of the slide, you can see a crack in the glacier. And when the glacier cracks and breaks off, it's called calving. And I put a picture on our Instagram, and maybe I'll repost it on our Instagram and on our Facebook. But we watched this crack break and this giant piece of glacier fall into the water. And it just made this loud noise. And then there were all these ripples as the glacier hit the water, and our boat started rocking a little bit. It was very, very neat. And then we saw some wildlife. I think those were sea lions. And the boat ride was 4 hours long, and we had this delicious lunch, and it kind of rocked a few of us to sleep. So Julie there and a few others took some nice little naps on the boat, and we were very comfortable and very cozy. And you can see that's us, minus Carolyn. I don't know where Carolyn was, but that's most of the group there on the boat. And it was just a really fun way to spend a rainy afternoon, because we could come inside the boat or go outside the boat. And it was really, really spectacular. That evening, we went out for pizza. So we didn't want to cook at camp. So we went out for pizza. And then you can see here, these are some paddle boarders. And these paddle boarders, we went back to Girdwood. These paddle boarders were on the water. So this is called the Turnagain Arm, and this is called the boar tide. So what happens is twice a day there is a boar tide, and that's when the tide rises really rapidly, and it creates this huge, gigantic wave. You can kind of see that wave in the middle picture here. And the wave is usually 6 to 10 feet tall. I read that it could be up to 40 feet tall, so it's pretty gigantic. And the wave moves just across this entire body of water between 10 to 15 miles an hour. So we watched as all these people went out on their paddle boards and their surfboards, and they paddled out to wait for the boar tide. And then the tide came in, and they popped up, and they tried to ride the tide all the way down. It was, I had never seen anything like this before in my life. It was incredible. And it was so fun to watch. We had just taken showers at like a laundromat. And so we all had wet hair, and we were just standing in the rain with wet hair from these really warm showers, watching these incredible athletes paddleboard and surf on the boar tide. So if you get the chance to go to Girdwood, put the boar tide on your agenda. You can just stand on the side of the road and watch it, and it's really cool. So that's the boar tide. We went back to our campground, had a good night's sleep. The next morning, we woke up to leftover pizza being cooked on our camp stove there on the toaster. That was delicious. And then it was time for another hike. So we went on a little hike. I'm not sure the name of this trail, but it was a cool hike. We hiked up, and you can see kind of, we started to get above this lush green, kind of above timberline here into this alpine zone, which was really pretty. So we just did an out and back hike, and that was pretty fun. And then we decided that we needed a nice chill afternoon. So we hopped on the tram at the ski area in Whittier, where were we? Alyeska ski area. So we hopped on the tram. We rode the tram to the top of the mountain. We had some cocktails at the top of the mountain. Some people hiked around, and other people headed on down. But you can see here, I do this thing on every group trip where I leave my phone on the table and I say, don't take any pictures, because I know what's going to happen. People are going to take pictures of themselves. And so I left my phone on the table when we were on the top of the mountain here. And these are the pictures that came out. So what do you think? Fabulous, huh? Anyway, so that is us. And then we went to the spa. I've been leading group hikes and group trips since 2013, and we have never gone to a spa before on any Hike Like a Woman trip. So this was a big deal. We went to the spa, and they gave us bathrobes and like matching sandals. And we couldn't have our phones in the spa. So it was a great evening to relax. We spent 4 hours there. We ate dinner. And we went from pool to pool to pool, and steam room and sauna. And it was a great way to kind of warm up and end this 3 days of camping in the rain that we had done. So who knows, maybe in future Hike Like a Woman trips, maybe we'll put together more spa days. I don't know. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was not on our original schedule. Our guide was just trying to get rid of us for 4 hours. So he was like, hey, you guys should go to the spa. And we were like, okay, Charlie, let's go to the spa. So anyway, we went to the spa, came back to our campsite that night, got another good night's sleep. And then the next day, we packed up camp and we were moving out. So we moved from Girdwood, from the Crow Creek campground, to Miller's Landing campground in Seward. So we had a lot of work to do to get our campground packed up. And Charlie was anxious for us to get our tasks done quickly, but we decided to have a dance party. And then we realized that 3 women in our group were all wearing pink shirts and they looked super cute. So then we had to do a photo shoot. And then some of the group decided to go on a little hike before we left Girdwood. But we were right in this place where there was a ton of gold mining. And so the campground offered panning for gold. And I thought, when in Alaska, do something very Alaskan and pan for gold. So if a few of us went panning for gold, you can see we were in this beautiful canyon with this raging river. And then we're on the side of the river here, just on the riverbank, panning for gold. I was hoping to strike it rich so that we could go back to the spa, but we didn't. I only found 3 flecks of gold, and 2 of those flecks were given to me. And so it was not a very effective panning for gold day, but it was a lot of fun. So we panned for gold there, and then we hopped back in the van and we drove to this beautiful lake. And here, a few women in our group were bold and they went swimming. I didn't go swimming, but you can see how beautiful it was at this lake. So we had like a nice little rest stop at this lake. Then we got back in the van and we headed to Seward, Alaska, which is where we spent the last 3 days of the trip. And we camped at the Miller's Landing campground, which I would maybe give it like 3 stars. There was showers there, which was nice, and flush toilets and water. But it felt a little bit run down and touristy, but still we had fun there at Miller's Landing campground. I think the high point for me that day was this beautiful s'more right there. You can see, I tried to just make it toasted golden brown, but it didn't work, you guys. Got a little burned, but still it was delicious. So that was kind of a travel day for us. And we didn't do any big hikes or anything super adventurous that day, but it was a nice little drive from Girdwood to Seward. And then the next morning was our big hike day. This was the day we were excited about. This was the hike that I'd been looking forward to the whole trip. And this was a hike to the Exit Glacier on the Harding Ice Field, which is a pretty famous glacier. And as you drive up to the trailhead, you can see all of these points where the glacier used to be. So you can see how the glacier is shrinking as you drive. And we stopped for a group photo there, as we typically do before we start our hikes. And then we started this climb up to the glacier, and we quickly got out of the vegetation. And then we were just on this beautiful trail. You can see this, how gorgeous it is up there. You can see the glacier over on the left-hand side, and it was just stunning. I think the hike round trip was, I think it was around 9 miles, and it was a pretty long day, and it was a little bit of climbing, a lot of climbing, but it was worth it. Every step was just so beautiful. I'll go back there so you can see that picture there. But anyway, that day, pretty much all we did was hike. That was the whole goal for that day, was to do this big hike. So we hiked, and then we went to a brewery for dinner, and then we checked out a local tavern in Seward, headed back to the campground. And I think we all slept really well that day after this big hike up to the glacier. So it was just gorgeous. If you are in the Seward area, go check it out. This glacier hike will not disappoint you. It's beautiful. The next morning, we woke up and we had kind of a relaxing morning. At 10 o'clock, we were supposed to go out there and do some kayaking on the sea. And you can see our guides had set up all the kayaks for our group. We were getting ready to go kayaking. We were super excited to go kayaking. But then a storm rolled in and they called it for safety reasons. So our kayaking trip got canceled. So then we were kind of scrambling, thinking, what are we going to do now? Because we can't go kayaking. And that was like the 4-hour activity that day. So instead, we do what we do here at Hike Like a Woman. And we went on a little hike and we hiked through a forest. And then we came out right here by the water. And you can just see how pretty it is with the water and the mountains. One thing that I couldn't get over about Alaska, and I've only been to Alaska in the winter, and so I didn't really notice this in the winter because it was so dark and overcast and I couldn't really see the mountains. But it's amazing how the water just goes right up to the base of the mountains and then they just like pop out of the water. I'm from the Rockies and and it's just so different to not have foothills and then mountains, but just to go like ocean, mountains, boom. It's incredible. So that was just a beautiful hike and kind of just a nice, relaxing way to kind of end the last like official day of the trip. So we were trying to figure out what to do after we went on this hike. And we decided we were going to go do some shopping in Seward, buy some souvenirs for our families. And then someone had found this thing where you can go dog sledding during the summer. I'd never heard of this before. So we go shopping and then we headed to this summer dog sledding adventure with Mitch Seavey's dogs. And I've since then like Googled the Seavey family. I guess they're like this massive family of mushers in Alaska. They like the father and one of the sons has won the Iditarod several times. And anyway, it's a big deal. I had no idea who these people were. I had no idea you could go dog sledding in the summer, but you can. So what they do is they hook up these dogs to a golf cart and then you just run, like they just run the dogs. They took us, I think, on a little 2-mile loop. And what was interesting and what I didn't even think about is these dogs are like lean endurance athletes, but they run the best when it's cold, like when it's 10 below, when it's 20 below, like they're built to run in really cold temperatures. And so we had to stop a couple times as we were out dog sledding because the dogs needed to rest in the heat and it wasn't even that hot. But it was just really interesting for me to learn, and for everyone in our group, I think, to learn about mushers and to learn about dog sledding. But the high point of the trip to go dog sledding probably wasn't like riding on the cart that was the dog sled, but one of the dogs had recently given birth. And so there were actually 2 litters of puppies. So then we had massive puppy time and we got to play with these puppies. So first we got to pet all the sled dogs and we got to give them all the love. And then we got some puppy time, which I think puppy time needs to be included on more Hike Like Woman trips as well. We had one woman in our group who's not a huge fan of dogs, and she even enjoyed watching the dogs. So, you know, puppies, but look at those cute little dog sled dogs. They're going to grow up to be so strong and so capable. Anyway, it was just really fun to go and play with the puppies. After that, we got this tour, and we were shown all about like dog sledding equipment, how they take care of the dogs, how the mushers take care of themselves. This is Rachel in our group. She got to try on the mushers parka and the hat, and she got to stand behind the dog sled. And just, it was just like this whole educational experience about dog sledding that I didn't really know about besides what I've seen in Disney movies. So that was really fun. And we weren't too sad that the kayaking had been canceled at that point because we'd gotten to experience like real Alaska with this dog sled experience. So after dog sledding, we headed back to our campground. All of our campsites were named and they all had people's names. And we found a Rebecca campsite. So, we had to take our picture by the Rebecca tree. And then we went to dinner in town. And this random guy right here is the Hike Like a Woman Hero of the Week, because we had some Hike Like a Woman hats and stickers to give out. And you can see every trip we have a new logo, and I give people some swag. It's really fun, just like this surprise perk. And this guy was just walking in downtown Seward, and he had this shirt on that said "Woke up sexy as hell again." And one of the women on our trip was like, he needs a Hike Like a Woman shirt. So we got his Instagram and we gave him a Hike Like a Woman shirt, and we gave him a Hike Like a Woman hat, and it was really hilarious. So it was just kind of like this fun thing that we did as a group, and he was a good sport. So after that, we headed back to the campsite, we went to bed, and then the next morning we woke up. And the last day of our trip, so this was on Monday, they're always kind of hard days because we have to say goodbye and see you later. And Michelle was the first one to leave our group, and she's actually still in Alaska, and she's on a big adventure with her husband. So we said goodbye to Michelle and then said goodbye at the airport. You can see we got some cool Alaskan hats there. And then that's kind of it for our trip to Alaska. What I'm trying to do right now is decide whether or not we should go back to Alaska. So if you have any thoughts on whether or not you'd like to join us for a Hike Like a Woman trip to Alaska in the future, drop them in the comments below, because I'd just like to know your thoughts on if that would be a trip you would consider joining us for in the future. Since I got back, I've been thinking about our Hike Like a Woman trips and kind of my goals with Hike Like a Woman and some of the experiences that I've had on all of our trips, from what started as just leading backpacking trips in my local mountain range has turned into this big, amazing thing where we're traveling all over the world. I'm headed to Yellowstone next week, and then Peru at the end of October, then Iceland in February, Costa Rica in April, Southern Utah next June, Kilimanjaro next August. So we're trying to lead 6 Hike Like a Woman trips a year at a minimum. And I've been looking at other guiding companies and looking at what other organizations are doing when it comes to leading these massive group trips. And so I thought I would just tonight share with you very briefly a few things that I think make our Hike Like a Woman trips amazing, special, unique, and kind of make us different than what everybody else is doing. And the first thing that I want to mention is that I go on every single group trip. I don't have a team. I don't have a staff. Sometimes I have a virtual assistant helping me behind the scenes, but at Hike Like a Woman, I'm a one-woman show, and leading women on these trips is my passion. It's what I love doing. I really believe strongly that we all need to kind of stretch and leave our comfort zone and go on these big adventures. And so because it's just me, because I'm a one-woman show here, I'm here for you before, during, and after our trips. And hopefully when you show up on a trip, you already feel like you know me. The other thing that we do that makes us unique is we carefully vet our guiding companies. And I'm looking to kind of expand into different guiding company options. And so I want to make sure that when you join us for our trip, you're going with the best guides out there. Also, what's really interesting is that I pulled up some stats and I did some work, and I discovered that 30% of our trip participants are repeat customers. So on this trip to Alaska, we had there were 10 women on the trip, plus me, plus Charlie, our guide. And 3 of those women were repeat from Alaska from Yellowstone last year. And that is super common. In fact, I'm in our Yellowstone trip next week. One woman went home and told her friend about it. And so that friend is coming with another friend to Alaska this year. So 30%, I think that says a lot about the experience and quality that we are able to provide here at Hike Like a Woman. And the other thing that I really want to mention is I get asked a lot. Today, I think I had 4 emails and 2 DMs about this. And it's usually someone asking, I don't know if I can keep up with your group. I don't know if I'm in shape. to go on a trip with you. And what I want to say is at Hike Like a Woman, like I come from the Army. I spent a lot of years in the Army. I never leave anyone behind. And here at Hike Like a Woman, we don't leave anyone behind when we're hiking. And we always split into groups where there's a faster group and then where there's a slower group that likes to eat more snacks and take more pictures. And I'm always part of that slower group. And so I just don't feel like it's a rush. And that's something I learned on Kilimanjaro is pole pole, slowly, slowly. We'll get there when we get there. And because of that, we don't leave anyone behind at Hike Like a Woman on our trips. And I never want anyone to feel like they can't keep up or like they're not in shape, because that's not what matters. What matters is that we're enjoying this incredible experience together. So those are 4 things that make our trips amazing. And if you talk to someone who's been on a trip with us, they'll give you the scoop too. And I think they'll agree with me on those 4 things. So I want to share with you just really quickly. I know your time is precious and I got to get going to a kid's thing at school, but I just want to share our upcoming trips just in case you're interested in what's going on here. We're headed to Iceland in February. That trip is sold out, but I anticipate we might have a few cancellations. And if we have a few cancellations, be sure to hop on that wait list. We're going to Costa Rica in April. This is our signature trip. We go direct with my friend Tom, who owns the Pecuare Outdoor Center in Costa Rica. And this is a fantastic trip. This will be our 3rd trip back to Costa Rica in April. And then we're going to Southern Utah next June. We still have 7 spots available on this trip. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be camping, staying in cabins, hiking. We're going to do some kayaking. We're going to do some horseback riding. It's just got a really diverse agenda, which is going to be really fun. And of course, our Kilimanjaro climb in August. And the question that I have for you, if you've made it this far into tonight's presentation, is I said that was all I was going to do in 2025. I said I was only going to do Iceland, Costa Rica, Southern Utah, and Kilimanjaro, but the demand is high for our trips. And so I'm trying to think of a trip to put together for next September 2025 and October 2025. I'm thinking maybe we'll go back to Alaska, but probably not camp, because if we're going that late in the fall or that late in the summer or early in the fall, I want to be staying in cabins or hotels. So I'm trying to think about Alaska. Another trip that's on the list would be a camping trip to Yosemite. We could also do a camping trip to Southern Colorado, and we could maybe even change that and do Rocky Mountain National Park. And I'm contemplating a trip to Patagonia in October, which would be like more of a trekking trip rather than a camping trip or a hotel trip. So I would love your thoughts on what you think of those destinations, and if you would consider one of those destinations. I just love to know your thoughts on September, October, if we should go to Alaska, or if we should go to Yosemite, or if we should go to Colorado, or if we should go to Patagonia. So those are your 4 options. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. And as always, I want to make sure that I'm super accessible here at Hike Like a Woman, because like I said, I'm a one-woman show. You can always reach out and find me, hi@hikelikeawoman.com. And if you want to learn about any of our upcoming trips, you can find us at hikelikeawoman.com or DM me on any of the socials, Facebook, Instagram. I'm there. So I am going to be off grid next week in Yellowstone with another group trip, but I am here for you. I'm happy to answer any of your questions about our upcoming trips. And if it's in your budget, and if you're feeling like you want to travel with a group of supportive and encouraging women, I hope you would consider a trip with us. Thanks so much. And I will catch you on our next live stream here in a couple of weeks. We'll do another live stream trip report from our trip to Yellowstone. Thanks so much. Catch you later. Bye-bye.